PR consultant with Gabriel PR. I'm going to kind of move through the presentation. It might be a little bit quick, but I encourage you to pay attention as much as possible and take down note of any questions that you might have for us. So a little bit about my company, Gabriel PR. We're a PR and communications agency, been doing business for going on 7 years now. And a lot of the things that we work on has to do with, building websites, doing online advertising, a lot of search engine optimization. So there's a lot of online marketing there. And in terms of branding and communications, we design logos, we design brochures, business cards, newsletters, different kind of communications. And with media relations, that's really just about reaching out to the press, trying to get media coverage, building relationships with media. And we're going to talk a lot about building relationships today. And we've worked in all kinds of industries: fashion, film, television, nonprofit, beauty, working with coaches and mentors. We've worked really across the board, and that just says that we've gotten an understanding for what it takes to communicate to different audiences. A little bit about me, Sandra Gabriel. I'm originally from Montreal, Quebec, big Montreal Canadiens fans. I've been studying and practicing public relations and communications for about 9 years. I received my certificate in public relations as well as a bachelor's degree in communications. So that just kind of says that I know a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about today. So just to go over what we're covering, we're going to discuss what is public relations. I'm going to give you an overview, and then we're going to talk about some of the best practices in PR. We're going to cover some PR tools and resources, and this is where I want you to have your pen and your notepad handy because you're going to have to take some specific notes. We're also going to talk about the marriage between PR and social media and how we use different media tools to carry out our PR campaigns. And then towards the end, we're going to do a communication calendar. So make sure you have your calendars ready. I don't know if it's Google Calendar that you use or if you have a book agenda that you use, but have something ready because we're going to do a bit of a communication plan. So what is public relations? Public relations is the strategic management of relationships between an organization and its diverse publics through the use of communication to achieve mutual understanding, realize organizational goals, and serve the public interest. So in that description, I've emphasized strategic because there's definitely a method to the madness behind building relationships with your public. And I emphasize diverse because you'll see in the next slide that there are a wide range of public that can surround your business. Communication is emphasized there because you need communication to build a relationship. I don't care who you are. There's no way you can stand, let's say you're standing in front of somebody face to face and you're saying absolutely nothing. There's no way that they can know what you're thinking and what your needs are. So it takes communication and different communication to build relationships. And mutual, that's the main key word there because it's a give and take relationship. You can't just put information out there and expect people to respond to you. You have to know your audience and know what it takes to build that relationship with them. So that's just an overview of public relations. To me, the different bodies that surround your business. There's employees, there's your customers, of course, social media groups, there's media. Depending on if you're in a government-related business, you have to communicate with the government as well, and you have to communicate with shareholders if you have a shareholder corporation. So this is just to give you an idea of the different bodies that can surround a business. And when I say diverse, this is what it means, is that you have these different bodies. You have to know what it takes to communicate with them effectively and get feedback so that you're building a relationship. So here are some of the PR best practices. These are the things that I want you to follow. If you follow nothing else to do with public relations, these are the main things that I want you to follow. And that is to segment and target your public. Do not mass message people anymore. There's nothing worse than getting an email or some message that doesn't cater to you or your needs or has anything to do with you. We're going to talk about email lists as well, but when you have your list, you want to make sure you segment them. If I have a customer in Toronto and I have a customer in Montreal, then I want to make sure that I'm sending my Toronto messages to my Toronto people, my Montreal messages to my Montreal people, and not just mass messaging people so that you annoy them. That's how you get people to opt out of your mailing list. And then make sure you have a conversation with them. So maybe you're not communicating with them every day, but you have a consistent message going on. We talk about consistency as you see down the list. And also be transparent, especially with personal brands. I work with one client who's very open about talking about her battle with mental illness and the abuse that she used to endure and where she's come today. The more you can tell a story and really open yourself to communicate with the people you're trying to build a relationship with, it helps them to be able to relate to you and to better build that relationship because they feel like here's something that we can build that relationship on. So try to be as transparent as possible. I'm not saying to go and tell all your private business, but the things that will help them to connect with you, you want to open up and communicate those messages as much as possible. Again, give before you receive. So going back to the mutual part of the description of public relations is, find some way to make that connection. If I'm connecting with a customer and I know they enjoy doing golf on the weekends, but I sell apples, I might have my Apple promotion, but here's a free gift certificate for golfing on the weekend. Something that you can develop. This is where the research comes in of knowing your audience so that you can build that relationship with them. Then the open door policy. So open door policy, especially in public relations, is not just about having your public know that they can come and talk to you, but it's also about them knowing that they can come and talk to you about anything. I looked at Rogers as an example. They have a whole complaints department, and lots of corporations have a complaints department, which says that they're open to the negative and the positive feedback that comes in. So open door policy is not just saying, here, my door is open, you can come and talk to me, but I'm ready for whatever comes through the door to communicate with you and be open to what you have to say and help to resolve your problems. And be consistent with your communication, and don't be afraid to shake it up. So consistency in terms of, if I know I put out a newsletter every month on the 15th of the month, your readers or the people on your list are going to look forward to that list, to that newsletter every month at the same time. So you want to be consistent in that sense, but don't be afraid to shake it up and do something different. I can do my newsletter on the 15th of every month, but maybe I'll send a video or I'll send a podcast at some other time in the month just to shake up the communications. And I kind of compare this to, a real live relationship between two people. Imagine being in a marriage where you wake up every morning and you say, hello, good morning, how was your day? You come back, you have dinner and good night, and that's basically your communication. It gets boring after a while, so you want to be sure you shake it up. And we're going to discuss some new media shaker-uppers later on in the presentation. So now I'm going to go through the PR tools and resources. I want you to have your pen and your notepad handy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to name each tool or resource. I want you to write down just the name. You don't have to write the entire description. I'm going to go through it and make sure you understand it. And I want you to think about, okay, this sounds like something that I can implement right away. It's easy for me to do on my own. This is where you're really going to find some value in some of the tools that we use because you don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars to implement these tools. So just record the name, and then later on when we're doing our calendar, we're going to insert each of the tools into our calendar. So here we go. So the first tool, it's not even really a tool. It's something that's on your body. It's your eyes and your ears, and it's really just for doing your research. Again, you have to know, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to know your public. And I don't mean knowing them in terms of, okay, my customer is male, female, they're aged, in this age bracket, they work in certain type of jobs or they have graduated at a certain level. I mean, get to know them intimately. So for example, if you're targeting work-at-home moms, and you figure that your work-at-home mom, she loves Starbucks, she loves to shop at Walmart, these are things that are going to come back and help you when problems arise. So going back to the open door policy, if the work-at-home mom comes to you and she says she's really unhappy with your service, say, we apologize for that, we'll compensate you, and at the same time, here's a Starbucks card, to kind of clear the air between us. So the more you know about your customer, the more it's going to come back and help you later on. So your eyes and your ears, you don't have to write that one down, but we are going to put some research time into our communication calendar. The next one is your email list. And I remember being on a webinar where the moderator said that, the money is in your list. And that is so true, because it's really, it starts with your friends and your family, and they're the ones who are going to refer your business or tell other people about your business, if you're just starting up. But then as you go, it's going to expand into, your contacts. As you network with people, you're going to make contacts, you're going to meet potential customers, and especially your clients. You're going to have that list growing and expanding, and it's just a way for you to keep communication open with a group of people who may or may not refer your business or talk about your business at some point. So your email list is very, very important. And then when it comes to media, if you're going to have media on your list, segment them out. Don't even include them in your main list of family and friends and contacts, because that's for a separate purpose. Media is really just for communicating newsworthy information that's going on at your company. And we talk about that coming up. So that's your email list. I hope you wrote that one down. The next tool is a news release. So your news release is just basically news about what's happening at your company. Always ask yourself, when you're about to write a news release, what's happening at my company? I remember the first time I read this bit of information, and I thought, well, what's happening at my company? There was a long list of things that I wrote down that, I could put into a news release and share with my contacts. Anything from, if you just registered your domain name, or if you're launching a website, or if you're working on a new product or service. This is all news for you, as well as for people in your circle. And then there's some free PR distribution sites. And I'm going to share a list of the sites that I use. I mean, there's probably hundreds of thousands out there, but we've gone through a process of kind of vetting these different sites to see which ones are the best ones for us to use. So I can share that list with you after the presentation. And it's not so much to get press attention. It's more for search engine optimization purposes. So when you think of the internet as this vast, wide world, and you need to have as many markers on this world in order to make a difference, or in order to make an impact, or for people to be aware of you and your brand, you want to have as many markers as possible, and nothing helps you do that more than content. News releases are a great piece of content. You can share it on these different PR distribution sites, and when people do Google searches for anything related to your business or topics or keywords that you speak to, it kind of helps you get to the top of the search. Now, press releases, I make a distinction between news releases and press releases. News releases, you can send that to your contacts and your friends and your family, but I wouldn't necessarily send a news release to the press, because what's news to you may not necessarily be news to them. If I'm launching a website, it's not necessarily news to the press, because it's not something that can impact their readers or their viewers. But you want to just make sure that when you're doing a press release, it has a newsworthy hook. So let me think of an example. If I'm selling rocks, let's say I'm selling apples, and I have this great new apple recipe. I might just send that as a news release to my contacts saying, hey, we've started this new apple recipe and everybody loves it. But if I'm sending that type of news to the press, I might spin it to say, so and so many people are affected with a certain illness that can be helped by, let's say, a chemical ingredient that's included in apples. So you're targeting the reader. You're thinking, how is this a bigger story picture? And then you would formulate that into a press release and send that out. And then at the bottom, probably the middle or the bottom, is where you would insert how XYZ company has come out with this great recipe. It has apples. It's something that people are taking in, et cetera, et cetera. So always distinguish between your news release and your press release. What's news to you is not necessarily news to the press, but you want to make sure you do some good newsworthy stories for the press when you're ready. The next tool is your newsletter. So your newsletter can include your news release or your most recent press release, but you can put promotions. If you're doing 50% off of your apples, you can put that into your newsletter, but then there might be some external content. Maybe there's somebody down the street who has this great tool to help cut your apples in perfect shapes of 4. You can partner with him and put his promotion into your newsletter and help leverage your brand as well. And it's always good to look at who else around you is doing something similar, so you can leverage the brand and maybe piggyback on something that they have going on. So you want to put all that kind of stuff into your newsletter. Anything that's thought leadership or any kind of value that you can add to it, you want to put that in. To distribute your newsletter, I use MailChimp. I find it very easy to use. They have all the tools I need. They even have the autoresponder function. And I didn't cover autoresponders here. Maybe that's for a PR 102, but they do have the different functions that you would need. Constant contact, eye contact, there's several out there. You just have to do a Google search on email marketing tools and you'll see a bunch of that stuff. So that's the newsletter. And then your website and your blog, website or your blog. So not everybody, people have said you don't necessarily need to have a website, and that's kind of true. I've seen people who use their Facebook page as their main online hub, but it's good to have a website that has your own branding on it, because when you think about branding and making a brand impression, what you're really physically trying to do is burn the image of your brand or the experience of your brand into somebody's, into their mind or into their heart or their soul, or like you will see on my presentation, you'll see my brand is right at the top there. So you're going to have that image in your mind and you're going to remember it. You're going to be able to recall it. Anytime you hear PR, you might think back to Gabriel. So your online hub, you want to have your own online hub, either in your website or your blog. And it acts as your 24/7 employee. So it's important to make sure you have the information on there that people are going to be looking for in order to make an informed decision. So when people come to my site, they're going to know, well, what is public relations? People keep talking about it, but what is it? So I have a description on there under what is public relations. I have my services on there. Some of the fees might be on there as well. There's a form to fill out to give me more information. Just make sure you have as much stuff on there because it's your 24/7 employee. So you want to make sure that they're equipped to encounter with your customers or anyone coming on your site when they're ready. It could be midnight, 3 in the morning. Just have it ready and available. And include a press room. So because I'm in PR, I'll always say include a press room, a media room, news section where you can put your news releases, your press releases, so that when the media comes to your site, they can find all the information that they need. Working with the media, one key thing with them is helping them to do their job. The more they have to research into something, if they have to fight with your website to find information, it's going to turn them off and they're going to turn away. But if you have a newsroom that has all your news releases, put your media contacts in there, put images in there, videos, anything that you think they're going to need or that you would like them to feature, make sure that's all in there on your blog or your website. And then social media. So everybody says, oh, social media, I don't have time. You have to make time because your competitors are there and your customers are there. And there's a fairly good chance that you might lose customers to your competitors if you're not on social media. If I'm looking for a certain company and I find they don't have either a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page or they're not on Twitter, I'm going to say, well, how connected are they? How much do they know about my needs and the needs of their customers if they're not connected to them in some way? So no time is no longer an excuse. I want you to make time. And I'm going to talk about how we can achieve total social media marketing success in 10 minutes or less a day. So stay tuned. So I want you to continue writing down the names of the tools as I go over them. But these ones I call the shaker-uppers because they're a little more involved in terms of time and budget. But if you can get them put together fairly quickly or within your budget, then they can really help shake up your communications and keep people engaged. So the first one is video and images. Video and images yield very high results on social media. You'll find you get a lot more clicks on a video or an image than you would on just plain text or a link back to some other website or some other blog. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Take your phone, take your tablet, snap a quick picture of yourself, snap a quick video. If you're doing a video that's 2 to 5 minutes, maybe you don't have to do a lot of editing. I've taken anywhere from 5 to 8 hours to edit a 5-minute video. So like I said, it's a little more time involved and it might be a little more budget involved, but it's totally worth it when you're trying to get some really good results. And there's YouTube, Vimeo that you can share videos on. And for images, Instagram is very popular. Actually, on Instagram, you could now share short 15-second videos as well. So there's another place to use videos. And there's also Pinterest and there's also Facebook. Podcasting, it's not the most popular, but I just see it as another form of having content. Remember, I spoke about putting as many markers on the internet as possible. So podcast is another area for you to brand yourself and to create some content. And, try to do interviews. I remember doing one podcast. I've done one in my career, and I just found that it was so boring to sit there and just listen to myself. So if you can get somebody else on the line to do an interview, then that would make for some really great content. blogtalkradio.com allows you to create your own radio station, so you can have interviews there, pretty much how we're doing this meeting right now, which where you have a moderator and then you have the person who you're interviewing. So that could make for some good content. And this is the other thing that's very beautiful about social media and the internet, is that now we don't have to rely so much on the media and gatekeepers and editors and journalists. We can create our own media. We can be our own radio station. We can be our own television channel. We can create our own community and our own following of up to hundreds of thousands of millions, and just create our community and share our messages within that community. That's a very beautiful thing about social media. And then, of course, iTunes. So any audio file that you can create, you can share that on iTunes. Just make sure, of course, it's something valuable. Make sure you brand it, put your logo on it at the very least, and share it out to the world. And then social media. So this is how we can do social media in 10 minutes or less a day. And I probably over-exaggerated the time. You could probably do this within 3 minutes a day. So you have to engage every day. Maybe not every day. You can skip a day if you need to, a day or 2 days if you need to. But the idea, again, is consistency. So I want you to go on, let's say it's your Facebook or your Twitter, like something, share something, comment on something, follow someone, and make friends. So the time it takes you to like something, how long does that take? A millisecond. You can like 3 or 4 things. And what that does is it puts you, so if you're on Facebook, you'll notice anytime I make a comment or anytime I like something, my little image shows up there with my comment. And the idea there is just to show up. You want people to see your name. You want them to see your brand as much as possible. Now, don't lose control and go liking things all over the place. Going back to the example of the apple farmer, I'm going to look at the apple groups or people who are interested in apple recipes. I'm going to look for those different groups and those different forums and see how much I can show up there. And commenting especially is something that I think is highly overlooked by a lot of brands and businesses because, again, it's a little more time involved, not huge. I've recently started putting a lot more comments on Forbes website, and the time it takes me to do a comment, it might be 2 minutes or 3 minutes. And then you don't want to just comment and say, hey, great post, thank you for posting. You want to impart some value. So if I'm the apple farmer, say, this is a great post. I read an article recently about great apple recipes. You want to impart some value. Share that recipe, share that link, share whatever thought leadership that you have or knowledge or research that you have with them so that you're putting some value. And then the more you show up in these different forums and these different groups, people are going to see that, oh, this person, anytime I hear something about apples, here's this brand, popping up in my face, and that's what you want. And the more you follow people, so I always get asked, how do I get more followers on Twitter? The key is to follow people. Very simple. If you follow 10 people, you're sure to get back at least 1 or 2 followers. And it's a slow-going process, but it's the best way to go. It's the more manual way to go. There is such thing as buying followers, but Twitter and Facebook, they don't stand for that. So they might not catch you right away, but at some point they will. We actually experimented with the whole buying followers on our Facebook page, and we immediately had 1,000 followers within a day, but now we're back down to 300 followers because Facebook has gone through and noticed that these are not genuine followers, so they will take you down. So you want to do it the manual way as much as possible. And connecting with journalists on Twitter and LinkedIn. So again, working with the media, you can connect with journalists on Twitter, but don't connect with them with the intention of just sharing your news. Let's see what stories they're reporting on. Try to share their stories, like their stories, comment on their stories, so that, again, you're popping up anytime they write a story about apples, for example, you're showing up in their forums, and they know who you are, and they see you. Say, hey, this is a great source. They're going to say, I can contact this person if I'm writing a story so that I can get their comment or their feedback. So social media. So here's where I want you to get out your communication calendar. Get out any calendar that you use. Again, it could be Google, it could be written down. You might even just take a note to write out the month. What you really need to be able to see is your months from now back and from now going forward. So get your calendar out. And then, you know, I have month X. That could be any month. It could be, let's say, January. I know the new year is around the corner. Maybe you're planning some things for the new year, and through all the tools that I've described, you think, okay, a news release, that's pretty simple to put together. I can do that. I can afford to do 2 blogs in a month. I can do a newsletter. I can do a video. So choose a month, any month, and let's start with, say, 2 or 3 of the tools. Let's not go crazy just yet. Because essentially this is not going to be your final calendar, but it's just to give you an idea of how you can plan your communication for an effective PR program. So we take the first month. I'm going to give you a quick minute just to write in, choose your month, and then write in, okay, if you know you're launching your website in January, you know, you could put down on January 6th that you're going to put on a news release. So just you know, take a quick minute, write in the tools that you're going to use on the month that you want to use them. Okay. While you're writing, I'll take a quick sip of water. All right. So hopefully you've gotten down some tools in your month. And now I want you to totally forget about the month that you've written in your tools, and I want you to go a month back and write in time for production. Oh, someone's on the line?
Hello.
So I want you to write in the time for production. So if you had chosen the first Thursday in a certain month to write your news release, I want you to go a month back and put in the production time for that news release. And a news release doesn't take a month to do. I've written news releases in, you know, sometimes a week, few weeks. It doesn't take that long to do it. But you want to put as much time as possible, because sometimes what you find is that you go to start on a communication and it takes more time than you had anticipated. So the basic idea is just to make sure you plan a month ahead for production of the communications that you want to put out in the month later. And again, it wouldn't take that much time, but sometimes it's just a matter of getting started on a project, and then you'll see, okay, this is going to take that much time, so you have a better idea of where you need to make more time or have less time to work on a certain communication. So your first month, you have the communications that you want to do, and then the month ahead of that, I want you to put in the production time for those communications. So now, so you've put in your communication month, you've put in your production month. Now I want you to focus on the month before the production month and put in the time for some research. Again, research is going to be what saves you and what gets you through the door to open communications with your public. And in the next slide, I'm going to talk about some of the things that you can research, but I'll give you a quick minute just to catch yourself, make sure you have your communications in, your production month in, put your research into the month before that. Hopefully this is all clear, but again, I'm open for questions later, so we can kind of go over this again if we need to. So we have our research month, production month, and our launch of communications month. So let's research. Some of the things that you can research, of course, obviously, you're going to research your customer, but maybe you could also look into some influencers. And influencers are people who are related to your business. So I mentioned before, maybe you sell apples and there's a guy down the street that sells a great apple cutter, and he has a following of thousands or hundreds of thousands. You're going to want to connect with people like that because, again, they can leverage your brand, and you want to know who these influencers are. You might find 2, you might find 20, but it's all about choosing the best ones to work with that you know you can connect with, who will actually respond and participate in helping you with your communications. You also want to research the media. So, you know, what Apple magazines are out there, what Apple newspapers are out there. Maybe there's a blog out there that I need to know about so that when I'm ready to share my communications, I have a place to share them. But also you want to see what content they have that you can share, or maybe they have some interesting news that you can put into your newsletter when it goes out every month. Events. If there's a networking event coming up, you want to be aware of that. Again, you want to show up anywhere that there's anything to do with your business. You want to show up there. We actually have a service where we look for any kind of events, any type of publicity opportunities, anything like that. We keep a running list of that for our clients. And it's very important because, again, you want to be wherever your customers are or wherever your public is that you're trying to communicate with. Your competitors, of course, is another one. You want to know what they're doing well, what they're doing not so well. How can you mimic or do better than what they're doing? Potential connections of partners. So these are people that could be a sponsor, or maybe they have something that you could sponsor, another opportunity for you to get your brand out there and do some brand awareness. You want to find online and social media groups. So, Facebook, if you're targeting work-at-home moms, Facebook probably has hundreds or thousands of groups that speak to work-at-home moms that you can find. And again, you don't have to be on all of them, but you do want to make sure you're on the best ones or the ones that are easy for you to connect with so that you can go into these groups and make comments or like things that they post, or you can share things in that group or share your news in that group. But it's, again, the give and take. Don't always go into these groups and just share your information. Share as much as possible because you want to show people that you're part of a community. You're not just all about you and sharing your information. You're part of the community and you want to fulfill the needs of as many people as possible. And then content. So what content is out there? What are the latest videos or the latest podcasts or blogs, or maybe there's some new white paper or some new service that relates to mine. So you're not really promoting your competitors, but you're looking for anything that's relatable that, again, people will say, here's someone who knows a lot about their industry or knows a lot about this, or has knowledge on the same interest that I have. So you want to make sure that you're sharing as much of that information as possible and not just your own information. Now, it all looks a little bit overwhelming, and sometimes the moment I mention research, I can tell people fall over in their chairs with boredom. But if you're really passionate about your business, you have this deep curiosity, and it's actually fun for you to look into some of these things, like, what's this? What's the new magazine that talks to work-at-home moms, or what's the latest blog, or what's the latest video that I can share? So you're going to want to research these things, and you don't have to do them all at once. If I'm sending out a press release next month, I just really want to know who are the media that I should target. If I'm doing a promotion in 2 months, I just want to know who are the customers that I should target. Where are they? Maybe there's an event coming up that I know my customers are going to be at. So I could try to sponsor that event or show up at that event to give out business cards, or maybe I can ask them if I can buy a table there to hand out brochures. It's all about knowing where people are going to be that you want to communicate with, and then for you to show up there as well. So that's our research. So now going back to our calendar, now we're looking ahead. So before we were doing from our launch month and looking back, so now we're looking ahead because we've done our research, we have all this great content to share. You can start to plug it into your calendar, and you don't actually physically have to do this part, but you can. If you have some ideas off the top of your head, you can look and say, okay, I know there's this great conference coming up on this date, and I know there's going to be a promotion from one of my partners or connections or influencers on this date. So you can start to plug things into your calendar depending on when you know they're going to be. Again, making sure that you put in your production month and knowing that you don't necessarily need a full month, but it's all about knowing how much time you need to produce it so that when it finally comes out, it's a great and valuable product that you're putting out. So you have your production time, you have your launch time, blogs. Again, blogs don't take that much time to put together, but if you want to make it good, something that people are actually going to read, you want to put as much time into it as possible. So this is just looking ahead. So I'm jumping around a bit, but we're actually looking back, and forget everything that I told you, but I just want you to focus on conceptualizing. And maybe that's not the right word for it, but what you want to do is really flesh out your ideas. When I was starting my business, I had a lot of ideas, and I would kind of just get going on them without really thinking them out. It's important that you think to yourself, I have this great idea for a product or a service, and think about, do I have the time to do it? Do I have the resources to do it? If I have to pay people to help me, do I have, what people can I rely on to help me? And maybe bounce that idea off of other people. You want to make sure you have enough time to conceptualize your ideas so that when you're putting out your communications and you're ready to roll something out, you can hit it day one. The day a customer comes to you and says, I want to know more about your product, you can get it going that day, as opposed to getting it started and realizing, oh my gosh, I don't have enough resources for this service or this product. You want to really take some time to conceptualize there. So that's just an overview. It's not a full, real communication calendar at this point, but again, think through the different tools that you can use. And the tools that I mentioned are really just my own idea of things that are easy to produce, that you don't need a lot of time and energy to do it, and it's easy to roll out. So those are just some ideas, but you might do some research and find that there's some other great tools, like doing webinars. That's something that if you wanted to do consultations with people, there's different tools for that. So you do some research, find out the different tools, put it into your calendar, but always remember the key thing that I'm trying to push here is the planning time, the research, and the planning time to make sure you're putting out the best communication possible. So in summary, know your public. Again, it's not just about knowing, if their gender and their age and their education. It's about knowing them deeply and intimately and what will appeal to them. And going back to my message about not mass emailing people, you don't have to be worried that you've segmented your list and there's really only 2 people in Montreal that you could talk to. I want you to keep talking to those 2 people, because you don't know who they know. You don't know what will come from it. I'd rather have a segmented list of just 2 people than a segmented list of 200 people and none of them care about what I'm saying. So know your public, know them intimately, know what's going to really appeal to them in terms of your business, and then communicate with them on that level according to their interests. Target your communication. Again, if I'm talking to Montreal and I have a Montreal promotion, I'm sending it to Montreal. If I have a Toronto event, I'm sending it to Toronto. Always try to skew the message to fit the audience as much as possible. Be consistent. So if you're putting out a monthly newsletter on the 15th of every month, keep on doing it on the 15th of every month. I'm kind of guilty. I do an occasional newsletter. I don't have a specific time, but you're always going to hear from me. People who, they know I started my business 7 years ago. They're saying, I don't hear from you all the time on a consistent basis, but I always hear from you. You always come back at least 3 months later, or even 6 months later. Have some kind of consistent communication, because you want to stay top of mind with your public so that the moment they hear a keyword that matches your business, your name or your brand comes to mind. Know your tools and your resources. So as you're doing your research, like I said, you're going to come across a wide range of tools or a wide range of resources. I suggest that you test them all. At Gabriel PR, we're always going through a period of testing. We always come across new tools because we're always researching. Researching is actually a daily practice for us. So every time we come across a new tool or resource, we're testing it out, and then we might roll it out to customers. So just know what's out there that you can use and the best tools. You don't have to use all of them. Just find the best ones that you know you will use and that you can use, that are easy to use. And then lastly is to plan ahead. Again, put in production time for everything. If you're putting out a news release about your new product or service, maybe you want to look at what other similar products and services are out there so that you can see, so you can pinpoint the differentiation between yours and theirs. Or maybe you want to research people who have used this product and service so they can give a testimonial about how good it was or how not good it was using their competitors and how you're going to do different. The more you plan ahead, the better for you, because you're going to create a great piece of communication that people can use. And there's my thing there, a good reputation is more valuable than money. And building a good reputation is all about your communications, your consistency in communication, and the relationship that you have with people. It's things like having a good relationship with your public that will save you when a crisis comes. So for example, if you're Toyota, I always know Toyota to make good cars. And they had a few actually mishaps where there was all kinds of problems with their cars, but I'm still a believer in Toyota. They've always made a good product. Their customer service is really great. No matter what happens, I still support them because I know they make a great product and that they have great communication, and we've built that relationship. So it's all about your relationships and your communication. That will build you a great. So that's all I have for today. Thank you again for tuning in. I think we're open to some questions now.
Yes, thanks. This is Carla. So thank you very much. We're just going to stop the recording.